Good evening. We're here tonight, City Council Ordinance Committee for Tuesday, May 4th, 2021. It's about 6:37 p.m. On this evening, on this lovely evening. So we have a few items before us, and there is a quorum. So I'm going to begin with the quorum that we do have. First, I'm going to read to you our accordance with Governor Charlie Baker's signed open meeting law, which was ordered to us in May 12, 2020, which relieves a public body from the requirement of Section 20 of Chapter 30A, that it conduct its meeting in a public place that is open and physically accessible to the public, provided that the public body makes provision to ensure public access to the deliberations of the public body for interested members of the public through adequate alternative means. The City Council members, staff, and certain invited guests with matters on the agenda will attend the meeting in person in council chambers at Brockton City Hall, and out of respect for public health and in response to the governor's declared state of emergency, this meeting will be closed to the public, and interested parties can instead access deliberations via a live stream, www.youtube.com/user/TheBrocktonChannels live. So we are live this evening. Councilors, at this time, again, three of us are here. To my left, we have Councilor, from Ward 4, Councilor, what's your name now? I forgot your name. Yeah. But, yeah, what is your last name? I did forget it, no. Nicastro, I'm only kidding you. Just thought I'd have a little joke with it. And then we have the Ward 5 City Council. Here is Mr. Thompson, Jeffrey Thompson. Hoping that City Council at Large, Ward 2 Councilor Tom Monahan should be arriving soon. But what I want to do is, I think there's an item here pertaining to, because we do have the chairman of the License Commission here, and I know he would like to leave.
So do you want me to make a motion to take things out of order?
What number is it?
Number 3.
Number 2?
Number 3.
Number 3. Yes, if you could, Councilor.
Okay. Motion to take an agenda item out of order.
Motion's been made and seconded to take item 3 out of order. Motion been made and seconded. All in favor of that? Opposed? And we're going to take number 3, which is order. The City Council of the City of Brockton petitions the Great and General Court under the provisions of Section 8 of Article 89 of the amendments to the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts for an act as follows: an act authorizing the City of Brockton to grant additional wine and malt beverage licenses. Invited guest this evening is our City Council President, Councilor at Large Winthrop Fowler Jr., and also the Chairman of the License Commission, Mr. Hank Tataglia. I believe the City Council President wants to speak on this particular issue. Also, just coming in, the City Councilor at Large Moises Rodriguez has arrived as well. So, Mr. President, I know this is something you put through, so.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the Ordinance Committee. I will be very brief. I filed this after we decided that we were going to increase the number of licenses for retail marijuana establishments. I wanted the License Commission to have the flexibility if a responsible business comes before them and requests a license for a wine and malt beverage opportunity for sales. It's that simple. Don't have any idea where it might be located in the city, don't have any idea who might be interested, but it just seems to me, in terms of economic development, if it helps a mom and pop operation to expand and perhaps be successful, I just wanted the License Commission to have that flexibility to do that for the applicant. And with that, I would, subject to you, Mr. Chairman, allow the Chairman of the License Commission to speak.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chairman?
Hi, councilors, how are you?
I'm good.
Why I'm asking for this is, like towns like Halifax, I think in Hanson just, no, I think it's Randolph just got, put in for them, and they got them. And we have some people, with the variety stores, some people that want to probably open it, but with the cigarettes the way they are, they're cut off with the menthol, they're taking a lot away from these small mom and pop stores, so they need something to offset some of the stuff that the the city and the state is taken away from them. I get requests, for beer and wine package, and I would say about between 4 and 5 if the state, if you people okay it, and it goes through the state. But these people are having a hard time surviving in these, it's just almost impossible.
I know what you're saying.
Need some help.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I understand it too. No doubt, especially right now where things have been difficult. But Councilor Nicastro?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Tartaglia, good evening. Thank you for being here. This is my question. The number of licenses, as I understand it from talking with you, is based on our population.
Yes.
Okay. And of course, we're waiting for the results of our census, and most of us believe that our population is going to increase as reflected by the census. And so therefore, we will get the right to add more licenses from that, right?
Well, it's got to go up over 5,000, I think. I think it's in increments of 5,000. In other words, for every 5,000 people, you get another beer and wine, not full alcohol, just the beer and wine. And I'm a little nervous about the census because I know a lot of people, didn't fill it out. And I know we got more than 90,000 people here in the city, and this has been going on since I've been there for 8 years, 7 years. We haven't had an increase in any beer and wine. So I think it's fair that, we could ask the state before the census stuff and everything, ask them to give us 4 or 5.
So you're saying we'd have this 4 or 5 that's reflected in tonight's matter, and then we'd have however additional or fewer that's reflected by the census?
Yes. Yeah, what we're requesting is, right now, forget the census. Right now, what we're requesting is, we want to ask the state to grant Brockton 4 beer and wine licenses. And then, hopefully they'll go along with it. And then, hopefully, if the census does come out right, then we can get more.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Tartaglia.
Councilor Thompson.
Mr. Chair.
You're welcome, Councilor. Councilor Thompson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Mr. Tattaglia. It's great to see you again. So you were stating before that the intention here is to provide an additional service to existing Brockton businesses that may have taken a hit through the loss of menthol cigarettes and through, other economic pressures that they've incurred throughout this pandemic. Right. So, but this would not, no change would specify that these would be allocated to those specific individuals or those specific businesses. So potentially these could also go to brand new stores that are looking to sell beer and wine, or it really wouldn't go that way since there's no liquor attached. It wouldn't make sense to open just a beer and wine store, correct?
Yeah, and what I forgot to mention, if the lottery goes online, that's going to hit the convenience stores more, That goes online, plus the menthol, they'll be selling potato chips. I mean, there's
Right.
no money.
Right, so, right.
People.
Our economy is changing, and some of these smaller mom-and-pop convenience stores are losing, as you said, the right to sell menthol cigarettes, the pressures of COVID, and if the lottery does go online, that's another hit.
Plus,
So
they took the blunts away from them, the cigar, the blunts.
right,
the blunts.
Right,
They used to wrap the marijuana in the blunt. And they took that away. They legalized marijuana, but they took the blunts away from the small stores.
but not the wrap. They still have the wraps, correct?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think they call them blunts. I don't know much about.
Yeah, no, neither do I, Mr. Tattaglia. But I just, to the, to our fellow counselors, I think the intention of this law is, this amendment is clear, and I think there's a point that having some of these places able to sell malt beverages and wine would be a lifeline to them. And so I support the request for a home rule petition to increase the number of beer and wine licenses by 4 in the city. Quick question, before you mentioned something about Randolph and other cities, so are you saying that they've recently done the same thing?
Someone had told me Randolph, but I know it's either Halifax or Hanson had some new stores coming, like a strip mall or something, and they needed a couple beer and malt, and they petitioned the state and they got them.
Okay. And
The treasurer told me that.
And I think another point that you raised, which I believe is pertinent, is the issue that the census, we don't know how the census is going to turn out. Through looking at the numbers when it was finished, I think we're around a 70% response rate. So, that could impact our overall population number. I think we all know with our own eyes that the population of Brockton is increasing. And, and I think it's right and it's proper to ask for additional malt and beverage licenses. So I do support this ordinance, and I appreciate you coming before this council this evening. Thank you, Mr. Tagglia.
Counselor.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Tataglia, nice to see you again. I
You
see that
too.
you're healthy there, which is a good thing. You're healthy,
Well, I'm
which is a
getting
good
there.
thing.
I'm not 100%, but, fighting back.
Yeah. I have a young lady that actually wants to start a business here in the city to do gift baskets. You know those gift
Yeah.
baskets that you can order online that comes with a bottle of wine, a bottle of champagne, and she was told that she needs to be one of these in order for her to open this business up, which would create jobs, and she's a single mom that wants to do this and
Yeah.
hire a bunch of her friends and stuff to do that kind of work, but she needs to get a license in order to do that.
What, a beer and wine license?
Yeah, that's what somebody told her that she needed to do, which kind of, it made absolutely no sense in terms of what she's doing, because she's not selling,
I know, yeah.
the stuff to
In
the
a gift
public.
basket.
but she was referred to your department, basically, to say that she needs to go after a beer and wine license, which it's kind of funny, because there's some in Boston that does that already, and some of the other communities that do that. So we're trying to figure out exactly, because if she needs to get that kind of a license, then actually this could go hand in hand with us trying to increase those numbers, so that people who are willing to do that kind of business can do those business without selling retail alcohol to people.
I can call myself tomorrow, and I can check with the state and see. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. I'm not sure.
That makes no sense. I don't know.
I don't
To me,
either.
it didn't make any sense, but they said that we needed to go through the same route that that establishments that sell, beer and wine or whatever other alcohol,
Yeah.
they do it they do it in public, in a sense. But I just wanted to say something about the blunts, by the way, that you brought up. That is something that we did actually when I was in the Harrington administration. At the time, we basically put in some ordinances and stuff to prohibit the sales of blunts, because young people were going to these places, buy them, stuff them up with marijuana and act like they were smoking cigars or whatever, but they were actually smoking pot, and that's why we try to kind of restrict that. I'm sure now we can go back and kind of, marijuana is legal on both ends of the things, and I think that's something we can readdress and kind of work with these businesses to do that. But I want to take it a little further in the sense, because I'm not exactly sure how Council Thompson actually would work in the city, because again, we often talk about fairnessness. How are we going to go about in deciding which 4 would get this license versus what 10 individuals who might be in the same situation not get this kind of a license? You know, what's the what's the mentality behind 4 versus right now? I think we have 40 beer and wine
No,
establishments in the city.
no, we get 19 beer and wine in full package. The rest are restaurant licenses.
So just 19 basically is that's what we have.
We have 20
So-
liquor stores.
Yeah, well, okay, 20, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
no matter what,
there's
20,
19 of one and 20 of the other, for a total of 39.
39, I'm
Well,
sorry.
that's what I came up with 40 somehow, thinking about that number. I'm just thinking in a city this large, you know, with the population that we have, I mean, 4 to me is it's almost like a bad exercise in fertility in the sense, you know, because just to go through this whole thing, petitioning the court for 4 more licenses, I don't think it would make much sense. That if we're going to go out and ask the state to provide us additional licenses, let's ask them for additional licenses and give us the flexibility to kind of crank it up from time to time or whatever. But I think 4 just doesn't make much sense, and that's just my take.
Counselor, I think in 2022, I think it's going to be on the ballot. Another, you know, but that's over a year from now, you know. It's going to be on the ballot, and they're going to give it to, well, the License Commission, I think, if it passes on the ballot, we'll be able to give it to Stop and Show Up or anybody. As long as you apply, you have the right thing, you know, just like a restaurant license. And I think it's going on, it was supposed to be on the ballot last year, but I think it was Cumberland Farms took it off the ballot for some reason, and it's supposed to be back on in 2022. So, you know.
No, I'm just, I just want to let the chairman know that I'd actually support a number greater than 4, that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
And in a way to make it as fair, maybe through a lottery system or some sort of a fair way to make sure that, again, if we're going to provide some licenses to some individuals, that there's some sort of a process that we follow, that it's just not me picking 4 of my friends to give a license to. I want to make sure that it's a fair process across the board, and I think we probably would need more than 4. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
What we usually do, I mean, what we do is, you know, who's ever ready to get a beer and wine comes before us for a hearing. You know, if we have a beer and wine, I don't think we ever refused anybody. So, you know, rather than, you know, it's just when you're ready to open a store and you want part of the store to be a beer and wine, you come before us. And then, you know, if we have a license usually and everything goes right, we give it to you.
But you don't have any licenses, right, to give
No.
out? Even in beer and wine, you don't have licenses to give out, right?
No.
Right.
That's why I want these 4 to hold us over. You know, in case someone applies. We have had some people that have applied, like the fish market down in Campello. You know, and I don't have any to give them. You know.
Yeah, I'd look at, Mr. Chairman, at least, you know, normally when you're asking for something, it's in increments of 5s. You know, why not start with 5?
Yeah, that's fine.
Let's go with 5. Is that what it says?
Yeah,
That's good. Fine's even better. 5.
Well, I'm just going by what council.
right, no, I think that was what was originally, Mr. Taggart said 4, and you're right, it does say 5. It's a
Okay.
request for
All right.
5.
That's what I was looking at, too. I thought
Yeah.
it was 5, but maybe I didn't.
Yeah, so,
Okay, all right.
5 is good.
Back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. So, let me ask you this, Mr. Chairman. Are we going to put this on, it's a ballot question, could possibly be for statewide, is that correct? Is that what you're telling me? Yeah. Okay. And
Yeah,
that
it'd be
that could happen
statewide.
next year, 2022.
Well, that's what they said. They had it on the ballot. They took it off the ballot. But
Okay.
they said they're going to put it back on the ballot in 2022.
Okay.
That's the big ones like Cumberland Farms, you know, who are really, I mean, you know, good luck to them, but they're really killing these little mom and pop stores.
Right,
I mean,
right.
they're destroying them.
Right, right.
I mean, you know,
So-
they have to have something, these little mom and pops.
So as it stands right now, is there a list in the License Commission? I mean, do you have like 4 or 5 people right now?
Oh, no, but we have people calling,
Okay.
you know, and we don't have them. So what I try to do is tell Sylvia, write their name down,
Right.
as they call in, write their name down. So
Right.
if we do get some, we'll call them.
Right,
That way there, it's fair to everybody,
right,
you
okay.
know? But we just don't have anything to give them.
I can understand what Council Rodriguez is saying, because even if you're looking at 5, then all of a sudden, it doesn't take too long for that to get talked around the city, and the next thing you know, you might want 7, 8 people, so now you gotta tell the other 3 people to wait, you know what I'm saying? That's my,
Well-
you can get in, what I'm just saying,
Yeah.
Hank, you can
I
get
don't
in
think they'll
and,
give you more than 5, though.
well, if it,
I mean, this is just my opinion.
Yeah.
I think they might go along with
Okay.
5.
well, if,
We go with 5, and then next
yeah,
year, hopefully.
5,
Yeah,
5,
next
and-
year, you could do the same thing, petition them again. I mean,
right, 5.
Remember,
and-
there is a,
the census was right in Brockton, we'd probably get a couple package stores too. You know what I mean? Because we haven't had a package store come up. I've been there 8 years, 8 years, and there hasn't been one package store that's come up for a license, because we haven't had a license in 8, 9 years.
Yeah,
And that
okay.
goes by the census too.
Right, okay, no, so,
People only realize how important that census is. I mean, for everything.
I think we're on track with what we're trying to do. Council Monahan, do you have any,
No, I'm good with doing the 5 additional ones and as a start, see what happens, because you don't even know, they say they're gonna put it on the ballot, but they might pull it too, again, so.
Yeah, right.
He's got people calling for them, that's revenue for the city, whatever, helping these stores out, so.
doesn't take long for a year to go by, it's going by
Yep.
fast enough now, so, in any case, I mean, if everyone's, all set with the 5, what's the take on, what's your final take on it? I mean, I would,
no, I agree. The consensus is, let's move forward with 5, and then see, number one, if the census numbers come back, increase it on its own. If the ballot question makes it a moot point, or if we have to come back next year and increase it again. So I think starting with 5 is appropriate, and I would make a motion to recommend this matter favorably to the full city council.
motion's been made and seconded on the motion.
I just
Council
want to say
Rodriguez?
something on the motion that I would actually add to something like for us to be strategic in terms of where to place these 5 additional licenses, because we don't want to bombard the neighborhood with
Oh, no, we
5
don't-
additional
we don't do
places,
that,
but we want to make sure that it's
Yeah, no,
strategically
we
located.
do that. It's almost like where needed comes in, as important as we have one, you know what I mean? Is
Right.
it needed there?
Right.
I mean, if there's 3 or 4 package stores or thing, they don't need it. But we
makes-
watch that very carefully.
Makes sense.
Just to be strategic about it, to make sure that we put
Yeah.
them in different places and stuff, so that it's not just getting to, because there's a tendency of a neighborhood getting bombarded with not so great businesses, and we want to make sure that those areas are not getting overrun by facilities that actually are selling
Okay.
alcohol and stuff, just to be strategic about it, that's
Yes.
all. And if you could just check on that other thing for me, I'd greatly
Yes, I will.
appreciate it.
I'll check tomorrow.
Okay, motion's been made in second, that would go along with the 5 additional licenses of, the beer and wine, malt beverages for the city of Brockton and for the License Commission to work with. And I agree with Council Rodriguez, too. You know how to spread them out, northeast, southwest, center, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Right, yeah, just so everybody's, good with it. All in favor? Opposed? So be.
Thank you very much, guys. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Taglier.
Thank you for coming in this evening.
Thank you.
Be careful leaving. Don't put the convertible down. All right, let's go back to item number 1. We ready for that? Okay, we have an ordinance amending Section 2-181 of the revised ordinances of the City of Brockton. Be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Brockton as follows. Section 2-181 is repealed in its entirety, and its place the following is inserted. The city solicitor shall be an active attorney at law in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, properly licensed and in good standing with the Massachusetts Bar Association. He or she shall have a minimum of 5 years of experience in the practice of law in Massachusetts with thorough knowledge of Massachusetts general laws, including municipal law. he or she shall have demonstrated trial experience, including the research, preparation, and the management of civil or criminal cases during the various stages of litigation. The provisions of Section 2-1110 of the 110, of the revised ordinances shall not apply to this position. However, where two or more candidates have equal qualifications and experience is determined by the mayor, preference shall be given to the resident of the city or candidate willing to move into the city within 1 year of appointment. And this was postponed, I believe, your meeting on January 28th, 2021, and now it is here before us. Invited guest, City Council President Winthrop Fowle Jr., and we also have invited the City Solicitor, Megan Bridges. I don't know if Megan was going to be here or not, but Mr. President?
Good evening again, Mr. Chairman and members. I'm actually going to suggest that you postpone this again, because I think it's very important that you hear from the solicitor as to the depth of knowledge and the types of issues that she has to handle. But I'll leave you with this one thought. Our current qualifications under Section 2-181 of the city ordinances for the city solicitor is the city solicitor shall be a resident of the city and an attorney at law in the courts of the Commonwealth. That's it. That is all we have established for qualifications, experience, and education for the chief legal officer in this city. And the chief legal officer, if you read our ordinances, which for better or for worse I do periodically, he or she has tremendous responsibility in meeting the needs of the city in terms of litigation, defending the city against actions, commencing actions in favor of the city. So this is not unlike the ad hoc committee that you have for the clerk and the assistant clerk.
Right.
But again, I really think it's important that you hear from Solicitor Bridges. So I would ask you to consider postponing it, giving her a chance to come in, and then I think you'll have quite a few questions you'll probably want to ask of her about the nature of her work and what we require of our solicitor. I almost think at some point in the future, folks, we ought to change the name from city solicitor to chief legal officer, because we need to modernize the whole approach to this. Solicitor sounds so benign, but actually, as we found
like
out,
begging.
the city solicitor has a very key role to play in this city, and if they don't play that key role, it can come back to hurt us.
Dr. Hart, yeah. Before we do that, Councilor Nacastro wanted to say something. I'll go to Councilor Thompson.
Thank you. Good evening, Councilor Farwell.
Good evening.
I think this this amendment is a very good idea. I'm going to make one suggestion when Solicitor Bridges does come in front of us. Your ordinance makes reference to someone who's properly licensed and in good standing with the Massachusetts Bar Association. The Bar Association is a voluntary organization. The entity that does discipline of lawyers is the Massachusetts Board of Bar Overseers. And so I think that's who should be referenced in this ordinance, okay? So when the time comes, I will suggest that we amend to reflect that.
I agree. I think for those of us who are not attorneys, we tend to leave out the Board of Bar Overseers, and I agree with you, Counselor.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Thompson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Councilor Farwell. I know you've been doing research on this matter. Do you know if the assistant city solicitors also have job qualifications in the ordinance, or are they as lacking as the city solicitor's job description?
I looked at the different you have various assistant city solicitors, one for civil rights, one for another body of law, but in my opinion, we should look at all job description in the city for our professional staff. I don't believe it's been done. I happen to believe that there should be annual performance reviews so that when it comes time to either promote someone if they're a career employee or if they're coming up for reappointment by the mayor, there should be something on which judgment is rendered as to whether that person merits reappointment or not. So the long-winded answer is, we need to do more to refine the minimum qualifications, minimum levels of experience for the assistant city solicitors, because that's basically a law firm. I mean, when you strip away all the municipal jargon, and we have a law firm that represents the city in various areas of the law, and so it's really important to attract the best and brightest people we can.
I agree. Thank you, Counselor.
You're welcome.
All set, Counsel? All set?
Yes, yes, Mr. Chair.
Anyone else?
I was just going to make a motion to postpone.
Second.
Motion's been made to postpone, it's been second, and we will postpone till another meeting, which will probably be within the next 30 days or so. All in favor? Opposed? That item has been postponed till the next ordinance meeting. Councilors, we go to item number 2, and on item number 2, I think some of you may have seen an email. I'm not going to go through and read what this ordinance, do I have to read it, madam? Do I have to read it through to postpone it again?
Item
Number 2?
Yeah, do you want to read it quickly?
Yeah, please.
Item number 2, ordinance, be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Brockton as follows, that the City Council adopt the following amendment to the ordinance establishing licensing and regulation for adult-use marijuana establishments. Section 1.007, subsection 2A, is amended by striking the entire sentence and inserting the following in its place. Priority application review will be granted to existing social equity participants or economic empowerment participant applicants for retail licenses. Social equity program participant means an individual who qualified to participate in the social equity program and is designated as a program participant by the Cannabis Control Commission. Economic empowerment participants means an individual who qualified to participate in the economic empowerment program and is designated as a program participant by the Cannabis Control Commission for a period of 3 years measured by the date at which a retail license becomes available in the City of Brockton. The City Council shall only review applications for a retail license for social equity participants or economic empowerment participant applicants. Invited to attend, Councilor Tina Cardoza, Attorney Resnick.
Thank you. This one here, as I started to say, Councilor Cardoza put this one through, and as you know, she's out of state right now for a few weeks, so she did send me an email. I think some of you may have seen that email requesting that we, postpone this until she gets back, and we would rightfully do so. So I need a motion to do such.
Motion to postpone.
Second.
Motion made and seconded on the, pardon me?
Until when?
Probably till our next meeting. She'll be back in time by the time we have our next meeting. Yeah, because it could be 30 days from now, but she'll be back, I think it's around the end of May, but she'll be back. You'll be at our next meeting as well as the other item 2, number 1, I'm sorry. All in favor of this? Opposed? Been postponed to our next meeting. We did number 3, now we're going on to number 4. We have an ordinance amending Article 2, Section 1.004 of the revised ordinances of the City of Brockton, be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Brockton as follows. Section 1.004 regulations of marijuana sales is amended by adding the following sections where appropriate. There shall be no more than 2 licenses issued for the delivery of marijuana products pursuant to the regulations promulgated by the Massachusetts Cannabis Control Commission. Priority shall be given to an applicant for a license to deliver marijuana products who currently holds a license for the conduct of marijuana business within the City of Brockton. And B, there shall be a moratorium on the issuance of any license to allow social consumption of marijuana for a period of 2 years from the date of the adoption of this ordinance. Invited to speak as City Council at Large Winthrop Farrell Jr., Council President, and we also have City Solicitor Megan Bridges, and we also have our attorney, Shannon Resnick, to speak on behalf. Mr. President.
Again,
Come
Mr. Chairman and members, I would recommend that you postpone this until Attorney Bridges can be here. I don't know if Legislative Council would like to add anything to that, but as you know, the solicitor is becoming somewhat of an expert in marijuana laws, has lectured to Mass Municipal Legal Association, and I think it would be very beneficial to have her here.
Over here too, okay. Attorney
Motion to
Resnick?
postpone to the next ordinance meeting.
If I could just add. So I agree with the postponement. So the other thing that I did want to say that I will be drafting and looking to introduce to kind of act in concert with this would be a change to the ordinance itself to actually establish the classes for delivery licenses. So like if this was to go forward tonight, you would have a measure of limitation on delivery licenses, but not have that defined in your licenses. You wouldn't have had language relating to how much to charge. So I have drafted that. So that'll be submitted as well. And then I did attend a conference that Solicitor Bridges presented at with the Cannabis Control Commission. And the delivery is coming, but it doesn't seem that there are many municipalities that have yet to act. So I don't think this is something that has to be acted upon tonight.
Second.
Okay, so motion's been made and seconded. Just on the motion, Attorney Resnick, do you see delivery starting within the course of this year somewhere at all, or?
I would assume by the end of this year. So just to kind of give you a little bit of like an overview of what you can expect to learn, there are different classes of delivery licenses, and it's not as so much as like I have a retail site and I'm going to send my driver out there to deliver. That's actually not an opportunity that's currently available. What they do have are opportunities for like an Uber Eats is how they're kind of categorizing it. So it would be a separate license, and you would only do the delivery. And in which that case, they would purchase from a retail site and then make the delivery. The other option is when they would purchase from the wholesale side and then make a delivery. And then there is another subclass that would be if you were a retail site, you can add on a micro grow business. So you would have your own small growing operation in addition to your retail site, and you'd be able to deliver that way. But the Cannabis Control Commission has upheld a 3-year priority process for SE and E applicants. So they are in the process of taking applications right now. But I do not believe that any host community agreements have been issued yet in the city.
Okay, all right, very good, thank you. All right, so motion's been made and seconded to,
Can I
post-
just ask a quick question of the
sure,
attorney?
on the motion, yeah, Counselor.
On the
Rodriguez.
motion, Attorney Resnick, I actually feel that we should separate B from this order itself, because I too agree that, we are, I think at least the take from some of the counselors that I have spoken to, there is no appetite for licensing establishments for social consumption in the city. So shouldn't we separate these two so that it's not in the ordinance itself that we're doing as far as changing this thing, but create some sort of if it's an order, a separate order that we can kind of come in with and basically put some sort of a restriction that we want, since, again, I think that as far as the temperature of this room is concerned, I think there's very little appetite in social consumption of marijuana in the city. So shouldn't we separate that somehow so that it's not in the ordinance itself, but just like a new order or a new something that the city council can actually enact, saying, we're technically prohibiting
Yep.
social consumption licenses in the
We
city.
did that with retail when we were working on those ordinances then. We did moratoriums as a separate ordinance change. The one thing I can tell you about social consumption sites is that is not something I expect to be a discussion this year. From what I understand, it is actually going to be cities voluntarily entering into this. So it's not something that's going to be required for the city to issue as opposed to your retail licenses. And it would be like a pilot program that they're looking to do. So like if you wanted to be, pioneers in the industry and sign up for it, they would work collaboratively with the city to kind of see what that process would look like. But yeah, that could be something done separately. We did that for the retail one.
Yeah, because what I'm thinking about is to make sure we are in the upfront of this discussion so that people know exactly where we stand, so that we're not sitting here with 50 people in this room asking us to allow them to apply for a license to open up a marijuana bar down the street so that they understand exactly that there's positively no appetite, at least from the handful of the councilors that I've spoken to, of granting this kind of an activity in the community.
So,
I'll have that prepared for the next meeting so you
When
can
we
see
have
what it
the
would
next
look like.
meeting,
Yep.
Yeah, that's good.
so, Mr. Chair, through you to Councilor Rodriguez.
Councilor.
So not a moratorium, but a complete restriction. That's what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay.
I think we need to, there's some instances where we have to listen to people, listen to those in this body, listen to people out in the community, that there's actually zero appetite in this. Selling it is fine, delivering it is fine, but in terms of opening up a shop down the street where you can actually go and get high, to me, makes absolutely, positively no sense. Because I go to a bar, for instance, to watch a ball game, and you have a drink here and there, have some food or whatever. But when you go to a consumption place for marijuana, you're going there for the sole purpose of getting high.
Right.
And to me, that makes absolutely no sense, and that's something that I don't think we should saddle the residents of the city of Brockton with, that kind of nonsense from the get-go. But I think it's important for us so that, again, we're not sitting here with a room full of people basically beating the drum down, saying that you guys need to give us license to do this. But if there's something already in the books that says we're not even going to discuss this, I think it kind of behooves us to do that and kind of put that stop before it becomes an issue.
Right. No, I agree. And Attorney Resnick, you're saying that the state, unlike the retail, unlike the medical, unlike the delivery, we can voluntarily say no licenses.
Right now, they're not exactly saying that. They're saying an opt into it.
Oh.
And then the narrative is that they don't believe moratoriums would be challenged at this point. So if you were to limit it to a 2-year moratorium, 3-year moratorium, we did that with the retail. We did like 6 months, and then when we realized we needed more, I think we added another 6 months or something like that. But from what was presented was that those moratoriums would not be challenged.
So potentially we would have an ordinance that says the city would be prevented from opting in.
Yeah, and we would, what it would say is that, likely what we did with the retail, is that for a period of 2 years, there will be no licenses granted in the city of Brockton for social consumption of marijuana.
So it's a moratorium and not a restriction.
It's a moratorium, yeah.
Through the chair, can we look at something beyond 2 years? Because what I'm saying, the fear that I have, Mr. Chairman and members of the body, is the fact that, you're going to get some business owner in the city that's going to petition somebody in the state so that Brockton becomes a pilot program for this particular thing. And that's what I think we're trying to avoid here, is so that, we cut down these discussions right off the bat, so there's no discussion about it, so that, somebody sitting in the benches up here isn't going to go up and pick up the phone and call, somebody up in Boston and basically now come in and say, we're gonna be part of the pilot program, and that's what I'm trying to avoid. So whatever length that we can go in through and legally do it, so that we're not putting ourselves in a situation where we're going to get in trouble by this. I think we should push the envelope as far as we need to push it, and let us be the case study that actually goes to court that says, we're not interested in this particular stuff. I'd love to go and testify in front of somebody saying as to why, you actually want this kind of activity or place in the city. Convince me that that makes sense. That's
I'll
what
look
I like
into
to do.
it, and I'll bring that back for the next one. I do know that, like with the other classes of licenses, you would actually have to put it back out to the voters, and that could simply be the result. If you have to do a moratorium right now, you might have to put out to
That's fine.
the voters, but I'll look into it and let you know what the process is.
All right, thank you, Mr.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So the motion's been made and seconded to postpone to our next meeting, and the legal counsel will look into the discussion we've just had on what Councilor Rodriguez brought up. So all in favor of that? Opposed? So it's been postponed to our next meeting. We go into item number 5. An ordinance amending Article 3, Division 2, Section 2-127, Pay Plan, be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Brockton, Article 3, Section 2-127 is hereby amended by striking $25,000 in the rate column for Director of Emergency Management and inserting in its place $35,568,000. We have invited to attend, again, City Council at Large, Council President Winthrop Fowle, and we also have Mr. Hook, our Director of Brockton Emergency Management Agency, here with us this evening. Mr. President.
Good evening again, Mr. Chairman and members. This is one that I know Attorney Bridges isn't here, but I might strongly recommend that you go forward with it, and we can allow Legislative Counsel maybe to add some comments. There is a Fair Labor Standards Act. It is a federal law that mandates that certain compensation be provided to certain classes of employees based on hours worked. You are either an exempt employee and you do not qualify and are not compensated for overtime, or you are a non-exempt employee and you are compensated for overtime. So, for example, the city clerk, by virtue of being an exempt employee, does not get overtime. The collector treasurer does not get overtime. The auditor does not get overtime. The city solicitor does not get overtime because they have been classified by this city as exempt. Mr. Hook is an employee of the city, and he has not been classified as exempt. And frankly, since July 1st of 2020, which is really when this, if you approve this, this should be effective, he has worked hundreds and hundreds of hours. And I will tell you categorically that if he were not the Steve Hook that we know, he could go into court, and he could take the city probably to the cleaners for all of the hours that he has worked and the overtime that we owe him. And I'm not saying that because he's here. I'm saying that because we all know it. I mean, you've seen him. You've seen him in action up at the Shaw Center with vaccinations. You've seen him delivering goods. You've seen him taking delivery of goods. So this is the only way to fairly compensate him. Not adequately, but fairly compensate him, is by increasing the salary to what is recommended here, and I did this in consultation with the city solicitor, and then, of course, have him declared as exempt. I do not believe I've misspoken on the law. I will defer to Legislative Counsel if I have, but that's what this is all about. This is to get him to again, a fair level of compensation for all that we require of him, so that he can then become an exempt employee. And frankly, it should be retroactive to July 1st because we owe him the money. Bottom line is, I'll stand here, I don't care what the public may think, we owe him the money. He did the work. He put in the hours, he put in the overtime, and for that we should all be very grateful, but I really strongly urge you to look favorably upon this, and if someone wants to make the date, this ordinance, the compensation shall be retroactive to July 1st, 2020. I have no problem with that. And, Mr. Chairman, you may want to hear from Legislative Counsel if I've butchered the law in any respect. So.
I don't think you did that. And just looking at this, I mean, to be truthful with you, members and you know, Mr. President too, I don't see this as something that's very earth-shattering from 25,000 to 35,000, to be truthful with you. I don't see that that's, you know, a big jump, and I agree with you because I've watched him many times, and I watched him some years back when we had you know, hurricanes and all kinds of things, and a couple of disaster situations and floods and everything, and he was out there doing Omen's work, to be truthful with you. Above and beyond what we had some years ago, and we had more of an older staff back then, you know that, so it was a little bit different running that department. But I don't have a problem with that. At this time, before we go on, I would like to hear from anything the legal counsel would like to say in regards to.
I would say, though, only because of all that people have been through with COVID, losing their jobs, being stressed to the max financially, $10,000 is a lot of money, and so when this was put in, I just wanted the caveat to be that it's something that we should do under the law.
Right.
It's something that's fair, but I am mindful of the fact that most people would love to get you know, $10,000 because of what they've been through, but this is really not Mr. Hook, it's the position.
The position.
I mean, if he leaves, that position will be compensated at that level,
Exactly.
and I'm sure we will still be requiring whomever is the director of BEMA to contribute that amount of work to the city, so thank you.
Sometimes we forget that it is the position that stays in place if the person does leave. I mean, the mayor leaves, the position's there. And
That's correct.
It gets paid at an adequate type of, you know, price, and whether it goes up to the next person, that's a different ballgame. But still, the position is what you're talking about. I understand that, too.
I agree. Thank you.
Madam Attorney Resnick, I just want to ask Her to,
Oh, great.
go ahead. Anything you want to add?
No, I drafted this, so it's in the form that you would, it kind of like looks a little strange to change the rate column, but that's how it appears in your ordinances. And then I did review the matter with Solicitor Bridges, and then just part of the discussions was that this shouldn't be a stipend, it's work, it should be paid at what's proposed.
I truly believe that, to be truthful with you. Counselor Monahan, you want to go? Yes, I know. What was it again?
Doesn't he have an assistant too? Who's his staff?
2 part-time people.
I know
Yes.
he has an assistant, but I'll let Mr. Hook
Yeah, he must have
describe
a staff.
how the
They're all doing
staff
the
is
same.
used.
Part-time people. 2 part-time people that he has.
Oh, he's supposedly part-time. Thank you.
Very part-time.
Which part?
Stipend.
Good
Evening,
Mr. Hook.
councilors.
Good evening,
Mr.
how are you?
Chairman.
Mr. Hook?
I do have a staff, 2 part-time employees, work 19 hours a week.
So shouldn't they also be compensated a bit? I mean, are they working the same hours? I mean, should they, I'm just saying, let's make it, if that department he's doing all this work, obviously putting a lot of hours, is the staff also doing that?
I think that is something that we should ask Mr. Hook to study and come back to us. I mean, BEMA has been through a lot in the last, well, since March of 2020. And I think it's appropriate for them to reflect upon all that was required, who was assigned what tasks. It should go to the mayor, so the mayor could adjust the appropriation that comes before us as part of the FY 2022 budget to reflect the work that BEMA does. And the people who work there, what their level of compensation should be. I don't think that's something that we will probably be able to solve tonight, but the more important and pressing issue was that he's sitting out there with the Fair Labor Standards Act on his side and a stipend that is woefully inadequate. But I would hope that this council would ask the mayor and Mr. Hook, maybe through a resolve, to come in and describe what changes do you foresee for BEMA? What changes in positions, what changes in level of compensation, based on all that you've done, what do you think the city should do going forward? Because it has been a learning experience, and hopefully we'll benefit from that.
All right, Counselor Rodriguez.
Actually, if I could ask Mr. Hook a
Sure.
couple questions that if he knows. Mr. Hook, you and I have had this discussion even on the days that I was in the corner office in terms of expanding that department so that it resembles, I don't want to say a real department because it is a real department, but it resembles a fully staffed
Sure.
department. Do you know what I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot, and if you don't, it's perfectly fine, but do you know what communities, let's say like Quincy, I'm not talking about Boston, Worcester, or Springfield, Quincy, the New Bedford types, the Fall River types, communities in our size range, what their budget or what their Department of Emergency Management looks like?
I can't pull that off the top of my head, Counselor, but I can certainly look into that for you. I know that some towns and cities like Taunton, Plymouth, they have full-time emergency managers, but like Quincy has a part-time emergency manager, or sometimes it's rolled into another department who is, you know, the emergency manager and the whatever. So
But cities normally would have some sort of an
Correct.
emergency department.
the city of Brockton, our size, needs to have a dedicated emergency manager, yes.
Especially when we're in the middle of a bunch of little communities, it's not like you can pick up the phone and call Avon to come in and bail you out. I don't know why I keep picking on Avon, but it's not like you can call them up and ask them to come down here and bail you out in a case of an emergency or something, you know? So, as a matter of fact, I just had a quick meeting with the mayor because another issue that we were talking about and your issue came up with this particular thing, and I think it only makes sense that we seriously, knowing what we went through or still going through with COVID-19, that we take emergency management a little serious, because I know for the longest time in this community, it was seen as, oh, by the way, we'll just put somebody in this box and not necessarily elevated to a level of a real department. And I think we need to do that because COVID-19 showed us that we need to do something like this. I also want to look at another issue here, because I know we're going through this thing here to try to elevate this to $35,568, but in 10 years, are we not going to be sitting at the same position in discussing that this position has been at $35,000 for the last 10 years? Should we not be able to put some sort of a cost of living in percentage or something so that these positions can kind of increase as they go up as well, so that, again, we don't come back here in another 10 years and still be talking about the same exact thing? I mean, that's what we do with some of these other department heads, so.
We do it with the council.
Huh?
The council does that.
Councilor Rodriguez, I think your point is well taken. Politically, we do not like to embrace salary increases. But that's not fair. I mean, it really isn't fair. It is politically risky. The public gets agitated about it, but we have professional staff, particularly if we go to require annual performance reviews. Some people might get a 1% increase. Some people might get a 3% increase, which is what we used to have in private industry. That should be done. I would hope that as we come out of the pandemic, as we get into the FY 2022 budget, it's approved, as we better know our revenues for the next year, fiscal year 2023, which hopefully we'll be able to predict what's coming based on revenues coming into the state. All of the non-union department heads, or all of the non-union ordinance positions, should be evaluated by the City Council, position by position, and then come up with what the increase should be, or no increase, depending upon whether it's adequate now. So I think that should be done. I think if we don't do that, we're doing ourselves a disservice.
No,
And-
Counselor, I think if you sit down and think about it, if we have let's say a staff department, with all the funding that's available through FEMA, Homeland Security, the various departments out there that are in the emergency management business, I think that department itself can kind of pay for itself in terms of going after grant. If he has the personnel and the people around them to look for grants and looks for other funding sources, that I am sure that whatever we're spending on that department will actually come in to that department for its own use. So the more we invest in it, and frankly, I remember when the council's salaries were raised from $10,000 to $15,000, there was an article in the paper that the councilors were being their pay were being increased by 50%.
50,000 each.
You know, so when you sit down and think about it, 50% of zero is still zero. And sometimes people don't understand that. And at times we sit here and we're petrified of doing what's right to employees, to this body, to any place else, because of the fear of what a handful of people are actually going to say. And those handful of people are going to say it no matter what we do. You can increase it by $1, they're going to come back and say you got an increase. Or you can increase it by $1,000, they're going to say you got an increase. So I think a lot of times we got to look at these things and see what we can do that it's right for the residents of this community, and not really pay much attention to the noise that's out there, because if we continue to pay attention to that noise, we're not going to be able to do anything. And that's why I will support this, and I want to make sure that we put some things in place that somehow elevates it gradually, so we're not here again, either through some sort of a review process, whatever process we come up with, because we don't want to come back here 10 years from now and say, oh, by the way, Steve Hook Jr., who's now in the position, by the way, is going to take the city to court because we're not being fair to Steve Hook Jr., So I want to make sure that we do what's right for everybody. And again, I know COVID-19 has kicked the, what out of us, big time, but we still have a city to run. And there's an opportunity for us to run a professional department where that professional department can get additional funding to probably cover that difference without a serious hiccup as we go along. And I think it's the right thing to do, and we should do it.
Well, I would say I think the leadership starts here. I would certainly support a resolve that formed a committee of the council to go through, again, the non-union department head positions. As you know, we have some department heads that are in a union, which I find particularly problematic because they will probably negotiate an increase for themselves, whereas the non-union ordinance department heads will probably get nothing. And that should not occur. So I would strongly recommend that we file a resolve and have a committee appointed to look into the non-union department heads and what their level of compensation is now. How does that compare with other communities? And even if it isn't done right away, at least let's have a master plan. Let's at least have a goal and an objective as to how we can treat people fairly. So your point is very well taken. And
We started, if you can recall, Councilor Farrell, we started that even just a couple of years ago when you were chairing the ordinance committee, and all of a sudden it just like went south.
Yeah.
But you're correct, we need to, because I do have to say, and you know, and I'm sure other councilors know as well, you know, we have a number of people that are working, you know, as ordinance employees. And I'm not trying to be any off-canter than anybody, or I'm different from any other councilor, but there isn't a time when I don't come into this building that 2 or 3 or 4 employees catch me and say, how come everyone else can get an increase and we haven't got one in 4 to 5 years? And they're not all wrong. They're not all wrong. Now, I disagree, and you know, we've both been this route too before, because a lot of people feel we need to match up with Crescent Street. Crescent Street's a different building, different animal, different unions. But we need to be doing something for our non-ordinance people, because it's just not fair. And, you know, at some point, you're gonna have union contracts that are gonna be, you know, this epidemic's gonna go away, and everyone's gonna say, okay, you know, where's what's due us from 1.5 years to 2 years ago? And, you know, it puts us in a position, but I agree with you, something needs to be done when we go through that all over again and take a hard look at that.
And I think, Mr. Chairman and members, the key is to tie the compensation to accountability.
Right.
Don't just give someone a salary increase. Look at their work. Look at their customer service skills. Look at how well they manage the appropriation that we give them. Look at how responsive they are to inquiries from the council for information. Do they even answer your email? You know, the problem we have is that Brockton is, in some respects, an overgrown town. We get to know all these people personally, and it's hard to hold the people you know, that you've known for years, accountable. But the public wants that. And if you're going to compensate someone at a fair salary level, then you should hold them accountable. Just the way we're held accountable by the public, we need to, along with the mayor, hold the department heads accountable.
Right.
And I don't want to get on a soapbox, but let's get back to the premise that it really should be done.
Yeah.
It should be done, folks. We've got people sitting out there with no, I think July 1st, 2018 was the last increase, if I'm not mistaken, and I think you might have been chair of Ordinance Council, Monahan.
Yes, we brought it, I think we went over everyone's salary, the ordinance positions, and they all got, they basically tried to bring them up to what the union was getting.
Yeah.
So, and I think maybe every couple of years, we probably should be going over that.
Yeah.
Again, or what have you, but I don't know about holding them accountable, how we can do that as a council. Well, all we're really doing is giving, by ordinance, what the pay scale is. I don't know who would be dealing with the, who gets what.
Well, I don't want to get too far afield, but you could come up with a survey instrument that would identify key factors, key performance factors for the individual, depending upon whatever their position is, collector, treasurer, city solicitor, and then you would have people, the stakeholders, fill that out. We'd have the 11 councilors fill it out, and, you know, maybe some other people. How well does someone get along with their fellow department head? I mean, I think that's pretty relevant. Those are the types of things that I'd be looking at. But again, this is BEMA's issue. It's not Mr. Hook's issue. It's the position of BEMA director, as is currently constituted and classified, that deserves your favorable action tonight. Thank you.
We're back onto this particular item right here, and I think we've discussed it, and we've gone outside the helm a little bit, but that's okay, because I agree with the council, we do need to do something on the other end. So, councilors, what's our...
Motion to recommend favorably if nobody else has anything to say.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded that we would take into, not into consideration, we will move forward, the striking of the $25,000, the rate column for Director of Emergency Management, inserting in its place the $35,568. So we're all in favor of that?
Mr. Chairman, before you vote, could I be a real pain and ask one of you to amend that to read that the compensation would be effective as of July 1st, 2020, which would be the beginning of fiscal year '21?
You made the motion, correct?
Motion to recommend favorably with the caveat that it will be effective July 1st, 2020.
So it's
Second.
motion's been made and seconded that we're going to move forward
Retroactively to
as amended, so that it takes place beginning as of July 1st, 2020.
Go back to 1 year.
2021?
2020.
2020,
2020, okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
Is that two votes?
All-
Is that two votes, one on the
Yeah,
amendment, one on...
I combined, it's, yeah,
Okay.
we did it as
Motion
amended.
with the amendment on it.
Okay, with the amendment, okay.
With the amendment, yeah. All in favor of that? Opposed? So we have it, so that's, you got that down, Madam?
I do.
Okay, great. Okay, so that's, Mr. Hook, thank you. Thank you for everything too as well. Before we depart, because a week or so ago I came up to City Hall so I could figure out just what was left kicking, and there's a couple things here I just want to get straightened in my own mind here, and it was a case of one of which of something that was done February 18, 2020, and I was still on the ordinance at that particular point, and that was talking about a pay plan for classification of assistant auditors and treasurer and collector and budget director, and I guess it was sent to us by the mayor, but I don't recall ever doing anything with it. Did we? No. So that's going to be my pile that dies at the end of the legislative year. This one here, Councilor Rodriguez, I don't know where this was January 11th of 2021, and it seems to be still hanging out there, but I don't think it's a need be right now. Am I right?
No, we took care of this when we did the marijuana.
So it was taken care of.
So this was taken care of.
Okay, so that was taken care of. Mr. Cruz, there was one here by him, and this was striking out. This one here was Section 2-100, the revised ordinances of the City of Brockton, and be ordained by the City Council of the City of Brockton. Section 2-100A is hereby amended by striking out the word "he" wherever it appears and inserting the words "the council," and by striking out the words "except finance" after the word "meetings." Hello?
Did we do that?
That was
Yeah.
tabled.
That was
Oh,
tabled.
it was tabled?
So it's still tabled.
Yeah,
Well, it's
because
got-
I'm showing up voluntarily.
So it's just going to remain tabled, and if nothing happens, you know what happens by the time I close the folder when we get through in December. And this other one here, Councilor Azak had given us in May of 2020, and that was going to talk about face covering mandate and all that type of stuff, but that's just, no, but we're beyond that.
We're beyond that.
Okay, so I just want to keep that deck clear, and we're in
So
good
do we
shape
have to act on those by tabling them, or we just not address them and?
If they're tabled, then it's the will of the chair to put
can
it back
stay
on the
there.
agenda.
It just, as I look at it, it's the end of the legislative year, and as I've always been before, they just go bye-bye by the next person, that's all. That's how they go. Unless somebody wants to bring them up, there's no need to bring them up. No. So we're in fresh order, Madam, other than the ones we postponed, and you got, so any other business to come before us this evening?
Make a motion to adjourn?
Motion's been made, seconded that we adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Has it.
Amen.
Thank you very much.